We've completed 4 games and learned a lot about our players and our football team, and they've learned a lot about the coaching staff. And it really gives us a great basis to move forward. Just looking at the first 4 games and reviewing Saturday, the areas that we got to find great consistency are turnovers, number one. We had a turnover in this last game. That was an area that they had struggled in. They did not turn it over. We did not force a turnover this last game. And so that's something that is an area we need to find consistency in. The next big area is consistency in the running game and gaining an advantage in that area of the game against our opponent. And this last game, the yards per rush, we did not win that. We were disappointed about that. That was an area they had been struggling in. And so we've got to go back and really establish that area of the game for us. The 3 next areas are going to be really important moving forward. Penalties stalled, several of our drives in the first half. Penalties equal points, and we gotta play cleaner in that regard. Runs and completions are an area that show the physicality of the game, and we made a lot of improvement in that area. We actually won that and dominated it in this past game, and it was really because of the efficiency of Jackson Brousseau. And so his completions and the way he threw the football helped us in that area. And then finishing in the fourth quarter, time of possession and finishing, we did not respond in the fourth quarter of this last game, and that's an area that we really are emphasizing. Really, really proud of a number of our players from this last game. We're continuing our effort and physicality on defense. Jake Jamilowitz had a great game, and really he was our Big Hit Award winner. Really has done a great job. Our corners, Jahari and Lamondre continue to play very physical and make an impact every week. And then Owen, what can I say about Owen? Owen's been fantastic, and he just has such great energy for the game, and just really, really impressed how he approaches his work every day. Offensively, I have to recognize the effort of Rocky Beers. Rocky has been a guy that's been banged up. Jackson Warren's been hurt. He's got a much bigger role than he's had, and he's just played with great effort on the perimeter and really done a nice job for us. And the other guy is Jackson. Jackson Brousseau. Jackson really competed hard in the game, did a good job scrambling. I think he had 8 checkdowns in the game where he threw the ball to the back after going all the way through his reads. And that's the kind of progression that we got to have from our quarterback. Going back and looking and now anticipating, getting ready for San Diego State. We got our preseason done. We're excited to start our conference play. And I think we know about our football team. I think we understand our strengths and weaknesses. I think we're making the proper adjustments as a staff to move forward and to really accentuate the strengths of the players that are playing for us. That's one of the things offensively we've done. We've looked at, Jackson's strengths, the things that he really likes and does well, and we're going to try to emphasize and really expound on those things, from our communication as a staff to how we call things. Everything that we do is going to work to inject some energy and life into that, into the offense, into his position. So really looking forward to going to San Diego State. This is a good football team. This is a game we always look forward to. Extremely physical team, very competitive. Coach Lewis has done a good job. He comes from that Art Briles tree, was with Dino Babers for many years. Spread offense, goes fast, tries to push the ball down the field vertically, does a good job of that. Defensively, they've played very well this year. Had a really low-scoring game this past week, 6-3. but they played very physical on defense. They're athletic. They do a good job of covering, and it's a game we always look forward to. This game always comes down to turnovers and special teams, and so we're going to be really focusing in those areas this week.
When you look at Jackson, after he's made his first start, does that help him accelerate what he can improve on now that he's seen something for 60 straight minutes? It's not just seeing it in practice.
Yeah, once a quarterback plays a game, he can see the things that he did well and the things that he needs to improve on. I think one of Jackson's strongest qualities is that he's a student of the game. I mean, he really is hard on himself. He spends a lot of time with Matt and Chase and Carson as far as understanding the nuances of the secondary, reactions, being able to get tells on guys. And so I just think he'll continue to get better. He threw the ball at a high clip in his first start, made a lot of smart plays, checked when he had to, got us into some good plays, kept us out of some bad plays. We had a couple of sacks in the game. That was more of a protection issue than his issue. But I'm excited about Jackson. I think he's a leader. I think he can lead our football team, and I think we can make a lot of strides moving forward with him.
One of the areas that you knew you were going to have to count on that had very little experience and a lot of youth was defensive line. But you pleased with the way like a Keegan Shanks come along, a Jack Moran, Lorich who'd never started, Kenyon who'd never started.
Yeah, all of those guys have been really pleasant surprise. Jack Moran is a young guy, really has stepped in and been very physical. Andrew Lorich has not been 100%, and you're never going to be at that position. But he's in there battling and fighting like a barroom brawl in there inside at nose guard. That's been a really a group that's come out and battled for us, and we're going to need that. Obviously losing McKenday is tough. But those younger guys have stepped up. Keegan Shank is going to play more, and we should see a lot more from him. So, we're going to miss Jacob Ellis at linebacker. That's another captain that's hurt right now. Obviously, Jackson Warren. We're probably not going to have Tanner Morley this week on offense. And so we got some key players that are down that, we got to have backups step up and give us the production we need.
Is defensive line, though, one of the tougher positions for you guys to kind of deal with? Because I know the bidding war in the transfer portal is probably high there. And you have to really develop young guys. So to see a Jack and a Keegan kind of take that next move, how important is that?
I think what we've found is that our most talented players we can get through high school recruiting. It's, because we spend a lot of time evaluating. We go find these guys that have the qualities that we look for. And so high school recruiting is where we get the most talented players. D-line is very tough to get in the portal. I mean, the price for D linemen is extremely high, and it's very difficult. That and a wide receiver is very difficult to get from the portal.
You mentioned, the aligning the staff and everything after Saturday. Obviously, mentioned the offense obviously isn't producing points you want. Is play calling one of the considerations that you?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about play calling, to be honest with you. But yes, our motto is we over me, and we're going to make decisions that are going to help the football team. And so, Matt and I have been handling offense for a long time, 9 years together. Matt's going to communicate with the quarterback this week, done a good job, and we're just going to change it up that way. And so I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about how staff works and how we work on offense, but that's how we'll handle it this week.
Obviously, like you say, you guys have worked closely together on that systematically. I assume that means probably not big change or anything. It's somewhat, communication issue.
I know you guys really want to know what our game plan is and everything, but probably not going to share that with you. But no, we've been on the same page for a long time about what we're going to do, and we need a little spark, and so. we'll continue to make changes and adjustments, throughout the year like we do every year. So this is no different.
You mentioned wanting to limit the penalties. Is having maybe Matt do some of that communication, is that a potential benefit of you being able to, I don't know, be less in the play sheet, more on?
No, I don't know. I think that's more of a function of being clean in practice. I think the penalties are a carryover of how we fundamentally practice. Guys understanding their assignments and not getting out of position, and so we're very hard on our guys in practice to do things properly and do it the right way. So that's how we'll just continue to focus on that. And the other part is limiting our package. We've done a lot of different things on offense and defense and special teams. I just think it's really important that we limit and focus to where our kids can play confidently.
When you've talked about getting some consistency on offense, I know you're also looking for more explosives. Are there certain things you look at, if we fix this, it leads to this, we become more explosive? Is it a step-by-step thing?
No, I just think we're getting closer and closer in our execution. And as we do that, we'll be more explosive, and we'll have more explosive plays. Part of the football season, 4 games in, is we're pushing consistency, but we're pushing individual accountability. We have to be our best selves, every individual, players, coaches, and we need our players to continue to develop their skill level. And so that personal accountability is important. When we watch the film and we point out things that need to be corrected, guys got to take that and make it personal. And so we're seeing that. We're seeing that from a lot of players. We've got a lot of young players that are improving every time we walk on the practice field, and we've got to be the team that continues to improve every week we play in conference now.
Because when you look at SDSU's pitched a couple shutouts, so how much do you look at what they're doing, and how much do you just look at what you're doing to improve you?
You look at both. Really, our opponent we look at our opponent to understand scheme, to understand how our package fits versus theirs, but it still comes down to us and what we do and how we execute. I think the biggest thing that everybody has to learn is that there's a lot of good teams out there. We're going to play competitive teams every week, and it's going to come down to how focused and how can we execute at the highest level every week. And, in our business, we got to turn the page. Every week we got to start over again. And you got to have a common respect for who you're playing against. You got to have a common respect for the coaching. We're playing against good coaches too, and they make adjustments every week, and we have to respect that and be prepared for it. So we want to be that team that dials in every week and is consistent.
Looking at Taj Bullock, I think he had -10 in the last game. Obviously, he's had some touchdowns this year. How are you going to try to help him to be a better asset for this team?
How am I going to try to help him to be a better asset for this team? We're going to coach him and put the best plan together. Taj is a good player, and he's got a chance to help us. Obviously, we had a couple of negative plays this last game, but we feel like his contribution is important.
Where do you think the struggle is in his play?
I think that he had a couple of negative plays. He only had a couple of carries in the game, and one of them was a big negative, so that was the problem in the game.
You liked your running back room, and it seems like you've been rotating them series by series. What's the idea behind that? Because they're all averaging really well per rush.
Yeah, I think, Coach Moses is trying to get all those guys involved. We have some packages where we have 2 running backs on the field, and we'll use those. And trying to find a place to get them all involved. It's not easy. I think Chop's the 5th guy, and he's a guy we'd like to get his hands on the ball more. And so we're using those guys in special teams as well. And so all those guys have to contribute in every way they can. But, Jeremy has a good feel. He's trying to figure out how he can get guys in and get them all involved. And I think they have ability to stay fresher and play more physical, as we rotate them.
You talked about some frustrations with the receiving core on Saturday night. Just what are you seeing from them, and what can you do at this point?
Yeah, I mean, your team is your team. We have to get them better. That's our job. We're going to do some things. I think we can find some ways to work to get them open. We can help them formationally and with motion and different things. But that's something that's definitely an adjustment that we're looking at. We got to find ways to help them schematically, and then kids got to have a breakthrough. There's only so much we can do as coaches. Kids got to fight like crazy to do the things they're coached to do, and they make a play in a game, and all of a sudden they start getting confidence. And so that's a big part of it. Those kids just need to have a little success, and I believe that they will. I think Jackson will give them opportunities, and and our offense will get people open. And Jackson's got to read it and deliver the ball to open guys, and once they make some plays, they'll gain confidence.
SDSU gave up a couple picks last game. I mean, how big would it be in contributing to that confidence to get some turnovers?
Yeah, that's important. That's something that we're pushing hard for. We got to fight like crazy to protect the ball offensively, and defensively we've got to work to turn it over. And we didn't force any turnovers this last game, but that's something that'll be very important this week.
You mentioned Jake earlier. Some guys come in as transfers, they kind of sit back, see how they fit in. He seems to be a guy that says, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to bring, get used to it. What's he really added to your secondary and your defense as a whole?
I tease Jake because there was a character in a Tom Cruise movie a long time ago called All the Right Moves, but his name was Jarmilowitz or whatever. And he used to go in the huddle and call 6'2" stack monster. But Jake is a very aggressive player. He's taken very well to Coach Summers' pressures package. And I think you guys can see, we're getting a lot of pressures from secondary players. Two of the biggest hits the last two games have come from edge pressure from corners or safeties. So, and Jake had one in this game. He got the big hit award. And so I just love his aggressiveness and his attack mentality, as a safety, and he's going to continue to be productive in this system.
Did Jake, had he ever seen this movie? Did he even know what you were
He was
talking
too
about?
young. He never saw it.
Did you take offense to you referring to him to a smaller defense?
That's right.
Thanks, Jay.